Well, greetings. Hello there. This is Josh Lane with the Eight Shields Institute, and today I'd like to share with you about the Accelerated Mentoring Program. And this is a little program that behind the scenes we've put together over the years at Eight Shields between John Young and myself. We've really worked with a lot of clients around the world who've wanted to accelerate their own connection with nature in their bioregion through learning holistic tracking, awakening all the senses in nature, understanding what the birds are talking about through their alarms and through their postures, and being able to read the footprints that you find at your sit spot in nature and understand who was there, when they were there, what that animal was up to, and all these kinds of things. So I've been working with John for a number of years now, since 2004, and helping to train people in this around the world, all the way from Australia, around North America, into Europe, all across the world. So it's been a great opportunity to get to connect with a lot of different animals and stories of different places, and yet at the same time work with what we call the Shikari Tracker Training Program, and a set of really time-proven ways that help people accelerate their tracking journey and see how this plays out in landscapes around the world. So it's been super fun to do this, and this is something I like to offer occasionally behind the scenes to a few motivated people. And right now, I'm looking for just a handful of folks for the summertime who would be really excited for joining us on this journey. And I'm really, in particularly, looking for people that are super highly motivated, who are high performers, who just get a goal in their mind and just run with it full steam ahead. And I love working with folks who are like that, who just want to dive right in, because that motivation piece is really key to learning this art. And basically, what I'll be offering is a weekly 1 hour call, one-on-one with you, and really using the principles of coyote mentoring to help you learn to connect in a really deep way with all your senses to what you're experiencing at your tracking area. So that's the sort of broad strokes of it. And this is for people who like getting what Tom Brown calls dirt time, getting out there every week, no matter what the weather is, not having excuses, but getting out there because you want to have that connection time. And this could be a few hours on the weekend when you have a dedicated chunk of time that you can get out and explore at your tracking area, as well as a little bit of time every day, maybe half an hour to an hour every day, where you can get out to your sit spot and to run through some practices, and also to do some research and field guides. That's one thing I like to guide people in that really helps your tracking journey catapult forward, because as you're getting out there, you're having experiences, but you want to start to pursue those mysteries of who left that track, how would you know? And honing that can take a long time. It's kind of like building an encyclopedia of knowledge in your mind about your local place, but it's not just about the knowledge, because all that happens along the way. And it's really about a journey of connection and engaging with that mystery. But one of the ways that we take that engagement and we take it to the next level is we do things like we draw tracks, we measure them, we journal the tracks. We go through all kinds of techniques for building the mind's eye, what John calls the storyteller's mind, where you really access your dynamic sensory memory through your journal. So we have a whole Shikari process for that that's designed to help you to do that. So if you like all those things, this is probably a great program for you, especially if you have the motivation. If you know that in 2 months' time you want to have a transformed view of your place, if you want to walk around your backyard, your local park, or wherever you go and see that place in a new way, to see the stories that are happening right underneath your feet, literally happening in the soil, happening in the bushes and shrubs, the stories that are coming through the wind in the air, through the voices of the birds as they alert you to an animal in the bushes that's out of sight, but you know that it's there because that bird's telling you, and you know how to decode what it's talking about. Or to see those tracks underneath the rays of the sun in the late afternoon. You come across some tracks in the mud, and because you've gone through this training, it's not just some random footprint, but you look into it and you can see through the number of toes and the claw marks and the shape and a myriad other things that you can see that animal's foot as if it were standing right there in the track, and see its legs coming out of that track and its body right there in your mind's eye, as if that animal were there right now in this moment through that footprint. And these are the skills that we build towards in this process of Shikari tracking. So if this stuff is appealing to you and you feel that passion for wanting to learn these kind of skills to connect with the animals that are right there in your yard or your local area, and you actually have some time that you can dedicate and make this a priority, these are the kind of folks I'm looking for right now. And I have just 5 spaces available to take for the summer. If you are around and you have some time on your hands this summer and you want to make nature connection a priority, then this could be a great opportunity for you. And these weekly calls that we do are a great way to help you stay on track, because you know that somebody's there every week to catch your stories, and you're going to be having a lot of stories, because every week you'll be sent out, and on the calls we'll brainstorm some missions for you to go on, some things to check out, some mysteries to explore. And when you get out there and you go through this process of opening up your senses, you're going to be coming back with stories, and I'll be there to catch you and to ask a lot of questions. And that's one thing that I'm very good at, is asking a lot of questions, because I want to know what you experience. And through my questions, I want to draw that out, that experience, so that I could see it, I could hear it, I could experience it right there with you as you tell that story. And so that, we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute, but that is getting into the coyote mentoring process of helping to draw out that story, so that every time you go, those questions are layering, stacking on there, one question after another, and your own curiosity is building, and how you want to know all these different things, and you're bringing back the story. We're going through it, we're asking questions. The next time you go out, it's like you're primed, your whole awareness is primed with all these sensory questions, and it makes you look, listen, feel that much more deeply the next time you get out. So that's what we're really aiming for on these calls, and that's a cumulative process, and it takes time. So that's why every week we set up like a routine, a rhythm that helps support your journey, to know that you'll be having a place to share those stories one-on-one every week, and then to deepen what you're doing each week. And it takes some time to build that steam, but once you get into it, it's like you have a momentum, a velocity that just keeps you moving forward. And it's so awesome. I love seeing it when people hit that moment of velocity where they're just taking off, and they're building all these amazing connections in each moment. They're understanding how that bird always alarms in that one place, and there's always fox tracks over there, because now they realize it's a fox, and there's always fox scats around that thicket, and they connect the dots. And things like that happen on this journey, where you build your questions, you build your experiences, and then you have these magical moments of when all those dots come together and you see the constellation, you see the pattern that's been there the whole time. And that's one of the things people remark about with tracking, is it's like the information's always there. The tracks have always been there. It's not like they haven't been there. Or that robin alarming has always been there, or those cedar waxwings up in the top of the trees have always been there. But until you build the internal connectors that match up that sensory input that's around you with something that's inside of you, that bridge has to be built. And once it happens, once that bridge is built through these questions, through this journeying to get out there, all of a sudden you realize, wow, there's this whole world, and that's been here the whole time, right under my nose. And that's how tracking is, and it never ends. There's always a new layer to that. So we're going to be exploring that together in this program, through 8 calls over 2 months of time over the summer here, July and August. And if we need to spill over into September a little bit, we can do that too. But I'd love to focus this into the summer months here for folks who happen to be around this summer. And the calls, I'll be available East Coast time, United States, on weekdays, Monday to Friday. And calls are between 9 and 4:30, and it's kind of a first come, first serve basis. So if you feel like this is for you and you want to do it, we can book a time, a standing time, if you want, where every week we get together sometime in that time frame there, and we either use a conference line, or international folks might Skype in to save money on long distance. Either way, It's nice when we do conference line because we can record it that way too if you want to listen in again and relearn some things that way. But in addition to those weekly calls that are really so key to this process, we're also including 2 online courses so that each month you'll get a different course, and throughout the summer you'll have daily practices, not just with the tracking piece, but with some other really foundational things. We're including this time around Awakening the Senses in Nature. This is a course that John Young and myself put together that's really designed to activate one sense at a time each week. Is just focus on one sense in different ways to get that sense fully tuned in out in the natural world. And this is in here, we put it here because this is like a core foundation for anything you do in tracking. To have those senses activated that way is going to give you a platform. You can keep building on that as you go with all the tracking routines. And people say they've done this. It's just a 6-week program with little daily practices and some reflection. So, it just adds in basically every day you listen to a track in the morning to give you a little inspiration and gives you something to do that day. And then at the end of the day, answer a few questions and reflect back on that day. And as simple as that sounds, that's kind of the core of Coyote mentoring right there. Have an experience and then ask some questions about it. And people who've done this for 6 weeks in their backyard are kind of blown away by what they experienced just in their yard. One person said, I can't believe this. I thought I'd have to go deep into the wilderness to have these kinds of experiences. But because I took the time to slow down and to really get into my senses with mindfulness and presence, these amazing things happen. And they had a whole new appreciation for that place. So that really is what tracking is about right there. And that's why we put this in here. So the first month, you get to go through that day by day in addition to what we're working on in our calls. Kind of stack it based on your needs, your interests, but it's a core piece that's available. The second month, after you finish awakening the senses, we're including backyard bird language. And again, John and myself worked on this course, and we've had over 500 people go through this now and connect with the birds right in your own backyard through, again, daily practices, little simple things, and also some videos and techniques that can help you really understand the birds. Because on the tracking journey, the animals leave footprints on the ground, but the birds are filling the air with information as well. And every posture, every song, every call, every alarm that they make is broadcasting different information that you can learn to tune into just through some really basic behavioral studies that can tell you, oh, there's a hawk over there. Oh, over here there's a fox trotting by. Oh, over there's a snake in that thicket. So as you tune into the pattern language of the birds, you get a whole other window into tracking of the animals that are moving through right in that moment. And it's so easy when you track and you're learning, especially you're getting into the footprints and you get right in there and your eyes are so tuned into the tracks that you kind of lose awareness of what's around you. And bird language is the cure for that, because once you tune into it, you'll always be listening. So there's a fair warning there. Once you learn bird language, you can't turn it off. So for the rest of your life, once you know this, you might be sitting inside working on a computer, and somehow in the back of your mind, through the glass door, through the windows, you somehow tune into the crows flying over, and all of a sudden you run out the door, you find your body has opened the door, and you've run out and you see a red-tailed hawk getting escorted across the neighborhood by a pair of crows that are yelling at it. This kind of thing happens as your body tunes in. You just pick up this information constantly because it's always there. And it'll add a really interesting dimension to your life once you tune into birds that way. And it'll totally amplify your tracking and add a whole new level to that. Because birds are the alarm system of the forest. They're cued into everything that's going on. And so that's a big piece of tracking. It's why we call it holistic tracking, because it's not just about footprints in the mud puddle, but it's about that whole bigger picture that's going on in the ecosystem. And really not just intellectualizing that, but feeling it, sensing it, realizing you're part of it. You have an impact on those birds and those animals. They can have an impact on your awareness too. And that's where it's at. So, of course, with the journals, we're going to be showing you how to identify your local mammal tracks, and going to go through quite a journey with that. This is where it all gets into perception and really fine tuning how perception's working, right? as you look at that footprint? What are you paying attention to? What do you notice about it? What are the patterns of different animal tracks, different families of animals? How do you know it's a cat versus a dog, or a gray fox versus a red fox? These kinds of things. And that's where we really focus at the beginning, because it's where you have to start. But it gives you a great foundation. And in these journals, it's not just about the footprints, but how does that footprint connect to the larger landscape? Where was it? What kind of ecology was around? And through a number of questions that you'll get real good at real fast, you train what Tom Brown calls the eye of the tracker. And he refers to that as when the tracker just looks around at a glance, taking in a huge amount of information. And I love to think of these journals that John has designed. They do that. They help you to start to access that eye of the tracker, because after you go through a bunch of these journals, all of a sudden there's all these things. The first few times you do them, you're like, oh, I didn't think about that at all. I didn't even think about where the moon was when I was drawing these tracks, or what stage of flowering the trees are in right now, these kinds of things. And after you do a bunch of these journals, your mind is trained on a subconscious level. You just pick up all this information because you've journaled it so many times that you know exactly what to look for. And it starts to form a holistic picture that track fits into, of where that animal is going, why it was going there. And this is part of what we call the arts of tracking. And we're going to get into a lot of things besides simply identifying that track, who left it, but imitating how the animal moved when it left that track, so we can interpret what it did when it was there. What was it doing? When was it there? How do we know that? How does that fit into the ecology? Because the ecology drives where the animals go and when. They need food, so they're going to go to where the food is. They need to go sleep, so they need to find a safe place to sleep. And every animal has a different way of doing these things, as well as patterns on the landscape, over time. And starting to practice trailing, following the animals, and then of course listening to the bird language. And intuition plays into all this too. It's not just the knowledge of all these things, but there's that larger sense of all the senses fusing together, and that gut sense and what it has to tell you. So we work all the senses as we go through this process. And here's just a photo of some adolescent male lion tracks that were in the Kalahari Desert that we found, came across, in a photo of some of the other lions, not the ones that left those tracks, of course, but some other ones we came across. So when you're encountering tracks like that, you appreciate having some bird language background, because your ears are going to tune in around you when you come across tracks like that. You're not going to get locked in with focus on the ground when you know there's lions around. And a lot of us probably don't have to deal with that, but just to put it in there, that's the kind of thing where this comes from neurologically. Our ancestors having to have that kind of awareness. So it's like we're built already biologically, like our operating system is already in place to have this knowledge, because our ancestors had to deal with lions and other large predators and pick up their tracks and pick up the tracks of the animals they were hunting. So it's like we're already primed for this knowledge. So it's one thing I love to tell people who are starting off. You already are a tracker, and you can pick this up really quick because your sensory system is already meant for this kind of information to come in and stimulate each sense. So it's a lot of fun when you start to do that, because it opens up these inner capacities. And through Coyote mentoring, we send you out on an experience with your senses. When you come back on those calls or through these journals, we ask you questions, and it's a chance to integrate that knowledge, and it builds that wheel. It just builds this momentum. And these are real things people have said going through this. I'm noticing more than ever before. Just after a week or two of this kind of stuff, I'm feeling more peace and awareness throughout my day. And I can't believe how this training sneaks up on you. Just like a coyote, it does sneak up on you because it's incremental. And it seems innocent enough, just little questions here and there. But some of those questions, they get inside like a brainworm, like when you can't get a song out of your head. And somewhere that question's running like a program in the back of your mind. The next time you get outside, think, oh, there's those tracks I've seen over and over. I've always thought they were dog tracks, but wow, look how much fur is showing in the pads there between the toes. That's so interesting. And you start to look at it and pretty soon you start to smell this kind of sweet, skunky smell, and you notice there's some scat around that you'd always thought was just a skunk smell, and this one's a little sweeter, and all these things start to add up, and you realize that suddenly one day you walk out there and all these questions like, what could it be? What left that? Suddenly you realize those tracks aren't from a dog, they're from a red fox. And that scat that smells a little skunky, that's from a red fox. And suddenly you see that landscape in a whole new place. And it's because these questions over time start to refine the awareness, what you're noticing, what you're paying attention to, and the search images you hold. And suddenly you see that place in a new way. And now the next time you go there, you walk a little bit slower. You listen a little further out for bird alarms because you realize, oh, that fox could be here. I'd love to see that fox. And suddenly that affects your behavior. You approach that place with much more awareness. And over time, engaging with that mystery, maybe one day you'll see that fox. So that's the kind of thing that happens. It builds this momentum and it sneaks up on you because suddenly you realize, like, wow, my whole day is different because of the way I've been using my senses when I track. Now when I'm at the grocery store or online or at work or with my family, I suddenly notice I'm using my senses totally differently. I'm more present, I'm more aware, more in the moment. And this is the kind of thing that happens over and over when people go through these routines. So for me as a mentor, it's really a gratifying experience to get to watch that transformation and see how this simple thing of tracking impacts lives every day as people practice this. And one of the great things about the program is you can go at your own pace and at your own place, right at home, in your backyard, or if you have a wilderness area nearby, like a park you like to go. But there's so much you can do, even in the suburbs. It's really amazing. That's where I grew up tracking. And there's actually endless opportunities in the suburbs. And then if you can find a little patch of woods with some hiking trails and things like that that you can get to for a few hours every week on the weekend or whatever, you can do a lot there. So even if you're doing this in your backyard, and then you can get out to a tracking area in a park, or even on baseball diamonds and stuff like that. There's creative ways to do this wherever you are, and you can do it at your own pace. Basically, I'll give you as much as you can handle. So that's what I tell people. This is a program that's about what you put into it. And that's why I'm looking for really motivated people for this round, because I love working with folks who want to dive right in, take responsibility, and just go for it, and get out there every week and do the journals, do the sensory experiences, and just really dive right in. And if you do that and you give it your all, the results are going to be amazing, because that's what happens when people put their all into it. Their senses expand in this amazing dynamic way, and you will not believe how you relate to your place after 2 months of these practices. It's like seeing the world with new eyes because of all the interconnections, the relationships that you build with that place, with the animals, with the trees, the plants, the birds, the wind, the stones, the weather. All these things will take on a whole new relationship through these practices. And that's what I'm excited to help share through these practices, because they've done this for me too. And I've experienced this over and over. Every time I track, it teaches me something new that way. So this is an investment in yourself, and this is an investment. This does cost some money. This helps us keep the lights on here at 8 Shields, and it's something we have to charge for right now. So unfortunately, we don't have any work trade or scholarships for this right now. We definitely need to call on people who can invest in this right now to do this. But it's an investment in yourself, and the way I look at it is, when you put in that energy, if you make an investment like this, it's like making a commitment to yourself. When you invest that way in a program, that you're realizing the value of it, and you're going to take that on fully to match that investment you've made for yourself. And these skills, they don't just disappear once you learn them. It's like once you learn tracking, you can't really unlearn it. Once you learn bird language, you can't really unlearn it. So fair warning, these skills are going to stick with you for a lifetime. So think of it as an investment in yourself, but not just yourself, because as you gain these skills, what it opens up for you will impact everybody in your life. And I've had people who've done this who, their coworkers can't believe they're the same person, because they're just bringing this peace, bringing this sense of carrying nature with them wherever they go. And this happens over and over for your coworkers, for your family, your friends. Really just amazing how, as you steep yourself in nature through these practices, you literally will carry nature with you. We call that carrying your sit spot because it's like it comes with you wherever you go. And you can start to access these inner qualities of peace and presence and this dynamic curiosity that just feeds into everything. So, this is just some fruits of the journey of tracking and putting in your dirt time. And it's an investment for a lifetime. And you can find more information on the page here about that. And, this particular training includes 8 calls one-on-one over 2 months that we'll do. And during those 2 months, you'll have online training courses. You'll have long-term access to those courses, but they'll give you things to do every day for those 2 months, plus what we're working on personalizing your journey. And on each call, we'll be generating, very specific things for your area, your interests, and your needs that'll help you on your journey. And you'll be layering in those Shikari tracking materials, those journals, and other things that'll help you as you do that. And again, this is all about what can you handle. This is different for every person, but I'll give you as much as you're able to integrate. And that's what's fun, because if you want to really go for it, you can go for it. So if you have some time this summer and this is something that looks like you can do it, I highly encourage you to jump in there. It would be great to work with you. And again, this will open up a whole new world of perceptions. That's what this is about. Tracking is about perception, really, at its heart. It's about relationship. It's about connection. So that's what we're going to be diving into. So I hope that you can join me for this adventure. I know that tracking has brought me a lot in my life, and I know that every day that I track, it brings me something new and amazing. And I just really am looking forward to sharing this with more people, and feeling honored to perhaps have that opportunity to share this with you too. So hope you can book your spot if this interests you, and feel free to read more on this page here and see how to move forward. So thanks so much for tuning in today. Hope you got something out of this little presentation, and hope to catch some of you not too long for the mentoring series here. Have a great day.